Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku for April 20th, 2024. For the medium solve, I take a very systematic approach and explain at least once how every technique I use works and give you the name of it, but most importantly, teach you how to spot those in an effective way. The video length may seem long, and it's because of the systematic approach. Once you get used to how that works, your solves will actually speed up quite considerably. Mine do not because of the amount of time I spend explaining and because of the time I spend ignoring a more hybrid approach in order to explain how to find the things that we are finding. So hopefully that makes sense. If you'd like to see a more hybrid solve, like this feels a little bit too basic for you, you can also watch my New York Times hard solves. So with that all said, the software I use is called Sudoku Pad. It allows for two kinds of markings, which is very important for this technique. So I recommend using the link in the description. It is free to solve the puzzle using Sudoku Pad. Feel free to follow along with the video or solve it yourself first and then see how I approached it. And so I'm going to get started right now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, excuse my cough. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through every band. A band is a row of 3 boxes. And the only thing we're going to be looking for in the band is duplicate givens. So, for example, we're just going to go through. Now, there is an efficient way to look for duplicate givens. If you think about if you have 3 boxes, how many comparisons between boxes do you need to do in order to find duplicates between them? And the answer is 3. We need to compare one box to the other 2, and then we need to compare those 2 against each other. You don't need to go back and compare backwards, right? So what I like to do is pick the box with the fewest givens in it because it's the easiest to compare to the other 2. So we just have to remember 1 and 4, and then look at these 2 boxes for 1 and 4. You can do this very fast. You can see they aren't in there. And then we just compare these 2 against each other. I pick again the one with the fewest givens, 6 and 7. We have a duplicate 6. So we know the only duplicate here is 6. So what we do is we look at how those affect the box that they aren't in, because we need a third 6, right? And every band is going to have 3 of every digit, 1 per box, 1 per row. So these 6s look in, and we look down here to see if there's any other 6s that might be helpful. There aren't in this case, so we're just going to mark that these 3 cells could be 6. And we use corner marking mode for that. So corner marking, we are using to designate that within this box, that digit has been limited to those cells. Generally, I recommend only marking if there are 2 left in the box, or like this case, where all 3 of them are in the same row or column. I would not mark it if it was something like around the corner like that, or more than 3, because more than 3 cannot be in the same row column. Okay, so that's the only duplicate up here. That's all we're looking for. We're trying to quickly get through all the bands and find duplicates. So here, this 8 is our smallest amount. We compare against the other 2. We find another 8. This isn't 8, obviously, so we'd put an 8 in one of those 2. Obviously, an important thing to check is that it's not already in the box. If you have 3 of it, it's not useful. It's only exactly 2 that's useful. Now we look at this 164, compare against that, and we do not find anything. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to move on. Again, I'm seeing things. You may be seeing things too, but I'm taking a systematic approach so that I can show one thing at a time. So this 4 and 8, we do have the 4 repeating and the 8 repeating. So the 4 is in one of these 2. This 8 looks in, and the 8 is in one of these 3. Now we just compare these against each other. The 7, 9 is the best place to start here. The 9 has a duplicate looking in. There is a 9 up here, but it's not helpful because there was already an 8 sitting here. But that does put 9 in one of these 2. That's the bands. Let's do the stacks. A stack is just a column of 3 boxes. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Just look for duplicates. So 1, 4, we do find a duplicate for 4. Now notice that there is only one place for 4. We could corner mark it, but why? This is what's called a hidden single. When there's only one corner mark in a box, right? When there's only one place in the box to place a digit, every box needs 1 of every digit. And so we need a 4 in the box. This is the only place for it. That's called a hidden single. So you can just place the 4 in the box. Now, whenever we place a digit, we want to follow up on it. What are we following up on? We're following up on things we already scanned. So in this case, I know I've already scanned every band for duplicates. And so getting this 4, I need to rescan this band for duplicate 4s, and I do find something. And so all of these 4s look in, and we can corner mark 4 in one of these 2. And there would be possibly follow-up on other things, but in this case, this is the only follow-up I see. So now we just backtrack and we go, okay, well, I found the duplicate for the 4. We compare these two against each other. There is a duplicate for the 8 as well. And so there's an 8 in one of these two. All right, move on to the next stack. There is a duplicate for this 8. Notice I started with the box that only had the single given in it. So there's an 8 in one of those two. And then we just have to compare the 6 and 7 against this box, no other duplicates. You can see how you can get through this very quickly, especially if you're not sitting here talking about it. I'm going to look at this 7, 9, compare against these two. I do have a duplicate 9 here, and this 9 looks in, and this 6 is not 9. So now there's only one place in this box for a 9, and I can place it here. But pay close attention when you place this digit that there's already a corner mark in here, and it wasn't a corner mark 9, it's a corner mark 8. So when I place this 9, that has removed one of my 8 corner marks. It's one of two ways a corner mark will get removed. Either you will get something in the row or column that looks in and removes that, or you're going to place a different digit on top of it. Either way, now we want to pay attention to how many 8s remain in the box. Just by looking at our corner marks here, we just take an inventory and go, there was only one 8 left. And we knew that the 8s were in the same row, right? Because we don't mark around corners, it's actually very easy to tell that there's only one 8 left. So we just place that 8. Now we want to follow up on all of this stuff. So the first thing is we follow up on the 9 in the band. And so we can put 9s in one of these two. We could follow up vertically, but that just means we have 3 9s. That's not helpful. The 8, nothing to follow up on because there's already 3 8s here. And then vertically, there isn't a duplicate 8. But vertically, there is this corner mark 8 that is now in the same column. Even if you didn't have red marks on, this would be the time that you would discover, just by scanning the column, that this corner mark 8 is no longer viable. This is the other way a corner mark gets removed. This actually can't be 8 anymore because there's already an 8 in the column. Now we look and we see there are 2 8s left in the box. So we can't actually place it yet. You would not want to, because we still don't know which of these cells becomes 8. Okay, so that was a duplicate 9. I believe we were looking at this, right? 9 and 7. And now we compare these against each other. I'm just going to think 1, 6, 8, 9, 4. But we already looked at 8 and 9, right? So 1, 4, 6 is it. Compare against this box. The 6 is the duplicate. There doesn't have to be a duplicate. In this case, the only duplicate was the 6. And we are done with that first pass. That is it for our first pass. For our second pass, and you'll notice this does seed us with some nice corner mark information, and we actually got 3 digits out of it. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less. It really depends on the puzzle. But I think that is the most important thing to sort of get the most low-hanging fruit that exists in the puzzle. There is one more thing you can do. When we filled this row of the box, we can call that a box row if you prefer, but these 3 cells are filled now. When an entire row is filled, you can kind of think about that as getting free buddies in this box. So you want to look to see if anything that's in the other 2 rows that aren't filled yet, if there's any givens there that might be helpful to this box. So unfortunately 4, 8, and 9 are already in the box. But if there was something over here like a 3 right here, 3 is a bad example, a 2 right here, right? If I had a 2 right here, that would remove 2 from these, and for free we know that these aren't 2, and we'd be able to place the 2 in the box, right? So that's something to look for as well, to follow up on when you fill up an entire row. We also have this column entirely filled when we place this 4. So I think it's a good idea to look at these columns, and we see that there's a 1 that isn't already in the box. And so we can look at the 1 looking in here, and then there is this 1 here looking in here. And so actually we can place the 1 in the box. That's been there from the start. I've actually seen that from the start, but I didn't want to skip ahead on the systematic approach. So this 1 can be placed, and this is how we discovered it, and that's perfectly fine. Just because you didn't see it right away, it doesn't mean you didn't see it. Now this is full now. So what do? We follow up on that by looking at these 2 rows. Getting a full box row or box column is extremely powerful a lot of the times. It can really help you narrow down what the box is doing. So we can take a systematic approach to this too, right? 8 already in the box, 1 already in the box, 6 not in the box yet. So this 6 looks in, and there's actually only one place for 6 in the box. We can place the 6. This now is full, right? So this isn't helpful, right? Because this is now full. But what we can do is now take another look at this box and see, okay, we've got a lot of full stuff. There's only 2 cells left in the box. I'm going to follow up on this 1 and 6 again in a second. But I think seeing that this box is down to 2 cells, I would always switch to center mark mode and just center mark what the 2 digits are that are left in the box that haven't been placed yet. In this case, it's the 2 and the 7 that haven't been placed. And I can just count in my head. 1, 2, oh, 2's missing, 2's one of them. 3, 4, 5, 6, oh, 7 is missing. That's the number I'm expecting to see. But I always continue the count anyway up to 9 just to make sure that I didn't mess up. And so we end up with a 2-7 pair remaining in this box. But there's other things to follow up with here. First of all, this 1, I didn't follow up horizontally or vertically. All I did was say this got full. So we have a buddy 1 over here. So 1 ends up down here somewhere. I'm going to modify this in a second, though. But then also vertically, we have these 1s. So 1 ends up in one of these 2. The 6, vertically, it does remove this corner mark. So might as well clean that up at this point. You've probably been staring at that. And then the 6 does have a buddy along with this buddy, putting a 6 in one of these 2. Now, this is another thing that should trigger a little bit more attention from you, which is that we placed 2 corner marks overlapping on each other, the 4 and the 6. They're not just overlapping. They're only in those 2 cells. And they exactly overlap in those 2 cells. That triggers once you get used to looking for that, that should trigger in your head that we now have a hidden pair in the box. It is a 4-6 hidden pair. When you find this exact overlap like this, you can convert the corner marks to center marks. Now, I actually didn't explain what center marks mean, so let's do that. I use center marks to designate that cell can only be those 2 values. It's the candidate values for those cells. You may hear me call them candidates. If you think about the meaning of the word candidate, it is one of a possible list of things that might end up in the cell. So this cell will be a 4 or a 6. If we look at the final solution of the puzzle, I guarantee you this cell is a 4 or it's a 6 and nothing else. It'll be one of them. We don't know which, right? Same with this one. This will be 4 or 6. Now, why? You'd think, well, I don't see why this couldn't be a 3, for example, right? Why can't I put a 3 here? There's no 3 in the column, there's no 3 in the row, and there's no 3 in the box. Seems perfectly valid to me. Well, if I put a 3 here, where am I putting the 4? And you go, okay, well, this 4 looks in, this 4 looks in, this 4 looks in. Okay, put the 4 here. Okay, great. Now where do I put the 6? Well, this 6 looks in, this 6 looks in, this 6 looks in, and uh-oh. I don't have room for the 6. Okay, well, what if I put the 6 here instead? Well, now I don't have room for the 4. So the culprit is this 3. This 3 used up one of the cells that 4 and 6 needed. That's what the hidden pair is telling us. It's telling us that those cells actually can't be anything other than the 2 digits involved in our hidden pair. Because we need to fit 4 and 6 in the box, and we need 2 cells for that, and there are only 2 cells for each, and they're the same 2 cells. And they can't both go in the same cell, so one of them will end up 4, and one of them will end up 6. That's a hidden pair. You could think of this 2-7 as a hidden pair as well. I just think about it as the digits remaining in the box, right, when we're that low. You can also think about it as a naked pair if you want. So the consequence of this 4-6, we're trying to follow up on everything. We just got a lot of stuff. And so the follow-ups can get a little daunting. And you can take a little bit more of a hybrid approach of just taking the low-hanging fruit that you see first. But let's talk about what the follow-up is on a hidden pair. The first thing to think about is what digits did I just remove from those cells? Because remember, a hidden technique removes digits from cells, including hidden singles, right? If you think about it. So this hidden pair, what did it remove? Well, it already couldn't have been 1. It did remove 2 from this one. So you just want to think about that real quick and say, well, now that 2 is not in this cell, it already couldn't have been in this one. Does that affect how 2 goes in the box or the row? And the answer is no, not really. Okay, so we move on. How about 3? 3 is not in these 2 now. Does that affect things? Well, we have this 3 looking in, but 3 is still in 3 places here, and I don't see how 3 is limited in the row. So no, 3 doesn't help. 4 is a possibility still. 5 was removed from these. This 5 looking in. We have this 5 seeing this cell, but again, not too much going on with 5s there. You can think about 7s as well. We do have this 7 looking in. This now can't be 7. Not useful. 8's already in the box. 9 was already in the row. So no immediate follow-ups on that. The other thing you can follow up on is because we found the hidden in the box, it was box logic, they happen to both be in the same row. So you want to kind of think about how they might affect the row. The easiest way to think about that in my experience is just think about what the 4 digits are that remain in the row. If it's 4 or less, I think it's worth just counting in your head, like what are the 4 digits and seeing if that means anything to you. So 2, 3, 5, and 7 are what are left. So you just want to think about 2, 3, 5, 7 as a whole for this row and see if that means anything to you. And to me, I'm not seeing much. I'm seeing this 5 here. I'm seeing this 2 here, but there's really, and this 7, but those aren't affecting these cells, right? So it's not super useful. Okay, so I'm pretty convinced that doesn't do much. We're going to keep following up. So one thing that happened here is this is full and this is full. So there's only 3 digits left for this row. So let's think about what those 3 are. I probably would have done this much earlier, to be honest, but if I wasn't trying to follow up in a more systematic way. So we need the 1, the 2, and the 7 here. Now I'm seeing that this 2, 7 sees this cell. So between 1, 2, and 7, what's this cell going to end up being? Because these cells are down to 1, 2, 7 only. Because the row only needs a 1, 2, and 7. And this cell can't be 2 and it can't be 7. So actually the only digit it can be is a 1. So that is what it will be because it needs to be a digit. So we can place the 1 and then we are left with a 2, 7 pair. Now this is what's called a naked pair because between these two cells, this one wants to be only 2, 7 and this one wants to be only 2, 7. But they share a box and they share a row. And because of that, even just one of those things, if even one of those things is true, they cannot be the same digit as each other. I can't make them both 2. I can't make them both 7. That breaks the row and the box. So as a result, we have what's called a naked pair. It's naked because you're nakedly seeing that they are identical to each other. Unlike hidden pairs where we had to discover in the box that these 2 digits could only be 4, 6, it's plainly visible to the eye once we pencil them that these are a 2, 7 pair. So what does that do? Well, whatever row, column, or box that they share, we know where the 2, 7 is in that row, column, or box. In this case, it's these 2 cells, so it can't be anywhere else. So that removes 2 and 7 from these 3 cells. It also technically removes them from these 2 cells, but they already weren't there. Because in this box, this will be 2 and this will be 7, or this will be 7 and this will be 2. Those are the only 2 options because these need to have values. So 2 and 7 are removed from the rest of the box. So what are the 3 digits remaining for this box? Because we know where the 2, 7 are, we know where the 4, 6 are, and we know where the 1 and the 8 is. So we need a 3. When it's down to 3 digits, I'm just going to fill it out. We need a 3. We have the 4. We need a 5. We have the 6. We need a 7. No, we don't need a 7. The 7's in the 2, 7 pair, and we need a 9. And this one's not the 9 because the 9's in the row. So now I'm looking at this row here, and I'm seeing this 2, 7 here. So we only have 3 digits left in the row. I just marked that right away as well. But look, this can't be 5 or 9. So we have another naked single. This can only be 3, so it must be 3. Remember, nakeds, when we call something a naked technique, that means it's just clearly visible from the candidates remaining in the cell. So if I were to try to think about the candidates remaining in this cell, well, it can't be 1. It can't be 2 because of this 2, 7 pair over here. I'll use one of the cells for that. It can be 3. So we can put a little 3 center mark in there. It can't be 4, 5, or 6 because of the column here. It can't be 7 because of the 2, 7 pair. It can't be 8, and it can't be 9. So it needs to be a value, and the only value it's allowed to be is 3, so it's a 3. That's a naked single. And that removes 3 from these 2 cells, but importantly, it places 3 in the box, because now there's only 1 cell left that can be 3. You can see that from our marks, or you can see these 3s look in, and think about how this 4, 6 hidden pair removed 3 from those 2 cells. And so we can place 3 in the box here. We've just placed a couple digits. We want to follow up. Vertically, there's not much to follow up with on this 3. Vertically with this 3, not much to follow up, nothing to follow up with. But now this row here, this box row is the only 3 digits left in the box. Same with the row. So I'm going to fill those as well. So what are the digits? We have 1, we need 2. We have 3, 4, we need 5. We have 6, we need 7. So this sees a 7, this sees a 2, and this sees a 5. All right, very, very fruitful. This band I would call quasi-done, right? It's down to pairs and triples and stuff. It'll get resolved pretty quick. When I say done, I mean we're never going to have to look at this band again to do logic on it because it's basically done horizontally. We just have to finish it vertically now. Okay, so that was very, very productive. Let's make sure we followed up on all the digits we got. This 8, this 9, this 3. I'm just looking at the ones that are blue. Just a last double check now that we've done all of that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to scan box by box. This is phase 2. Phase 1 got us a lot, and that was partly because of follow-ups that we were doing, and also certain specific follow-ups that are just really low-hanging fruit, like just filling out the rest of a box when it's down to 2 or 3 cells. paying close attention to box rows and box columns that got filled, things like that. Okay, so now we're going to go box by box. What we're going to look for is what I call crossings. These are extremely powerful to find, and you're going to find a couple in every puzzle. I'm pretty sure. They're not required, but they're common enough that they're worth looking for because of the effect that they have, and often they're kind of a required technique to see in a puzzle like the medium or the hard. And what they're going to do is they're going to expose either hidden singles that we didn't find through the first pass because they're a little bit more subtle. We would have found this 1 and this 6, I'm pretty sure, that way had we not found it this other way. I was kind of waiting for that pass to find them, and I realized we could find them in a different way because of the filled box column. Anyway, crossings will find you either a hidden single or pointing. And we haven't gone over pointing yet, but I will once we find a crossing. I don't know if there's one in this puzzle yet. I haven't really been looking, but we're going to look now. So the thing to focus on is 2 digits in a box. And when I say 2 digits in a box, I mean where we exactly know where the digit is. So in this case, we exactly know where the 4 and 1 are because they're given. But we also exactly know where this 1 and this 6 and this 4 are, right? It doesn't matter if it's black or blue, just the 2 big digits, right? So we're looking for 2 digits that share a row or a column in the same box. So in this case, this 4 and 1 share a row. I'm going to make those green just so that I don't have to select everything all at once. So what do we know about these 2 green digits? Well, they share a row, and there's one. So because they share a row, there is one row that they aren't in. Sorry, there's one column that they aren't in. There are 2 rows they aren't in, and there is one column that they aren't in. And we're only going to pay attention to the digits that are outside of the box. So let's look at the column first. The one that's single is easier to look at first. So we have this column here, and make that purple. This column, the 2 greens aren't in. What's special about that? Well, that means that anything in this column is going to eliminate 3 cells from this box that can't repeat that digit, and those 3 cells will not be the green cells. That's a very important aspect of it. So what we're going to do, we're not going to care about anything that's already in the box. We don't care about these 1s that are corner marked. 8 is interesting, 5 is interesting, 9 is interesting, 4 is not. So 5, 8, and 9 are interesting digits. Now we're going to look at the 2 rows they aren't in. We don't care about the row they are in. It's not helpful. But the 2 rows they aren't in, I'll make that in blue. And I don't even need to remove from that because all I need to do is look for a 5, 8, or 9. Unfortunately, we have a 5, 9, but it's not in blue. They aren't blue. We only have the 2, 6, 7. So we did not find a crossing, unfortunately. But we're going to do that in every box to every pair of digits that share a row or column. You can also look at ones where they're offset like this. It can be powerful, but basically, if you think about it, between these 2, there is a single row and a single column they aren't in, and you want to look at those. And in this case, there are no repeats here either. If there was a 2 here, like if this 2, 7 ended up 2, that would help. And if you think about it, if this was a 2, there'd be 2s looking up here, there's 2 looking in here, and we'd be able to corner mark 2s in this box in one of these 2. All right. So that's it for that box. Let's move on to this box. The 6, 5 is the more traditional crossing look for, but this row is empty, so not actually helpful. The 9, 5, also very nice. You can see there's a gap in between the 9, 5. So we care about 6 or 9, but unfortunately 6, 9 are already in the box. This 2, 6 are offset, so we could look at the single row and column. So in this case, we found a 1. So I'm looking at 1, 7, 8, and I'm looking over here, and I see that there's a 1 repeated. So that repeated 1 looks in like this, and this 2, 6 occupy 2 of those cells that are remaining. And that's going to happen because we looked at the row column they weren't in. And so we can corner mark 1s up here in one of these 2. This can be very handy because if you find 2 of those, suddenly you have a hidden pair on your hands, and that can be very powerful. And then this 2, 9 are avoiding this row and this column, right? So we can, but unfortunately, there's no repeats, right? If this was a 7, there would be. So things to keep in mind. I mostly look for the ones that are in the same row column, but sometimes you might find it like between this 5 and 2, like you might find something. But at this point, you've already kind of compared all of these to see if there's anything even really worth looking for. So the 7, for example, we did find a repeat. It's worth just checking to see if that happens to have a set of givens like the 2, 5, right? So we can corner mark 7s in here as well. But like something like these 4s is unfortunately not super helpful because there's only 1 given that avoids them. Anyway, let's move on to the next box. Okay, we're not going to pay attention to these boxes because what we're looking for is restrictions in those boxes, and these are already basically done. So we can move straight onto this 4, 8. The only thing that would be useful is something repeated here, and there is not. So this box here, let's look at the 4, 2 and the 4, 8, the more traditional crossings. We already have an 8 in the box, so not helpful. The 4, 8, there's nothing in this row. That's helpful, unfortunately. The 9, 2, we'd be looking for a 3 or a 6 down here. There's not. Something like this 8, 9. At this point, I'm just going to compare like 1, 6, 7, 8. We don't care about the 8. Just 1, 6, and 7 need to be in the box somewhere. But okay, we have the 7 repeat, so we can put 7s in one of these two. So that's all I see. And then this 7, 9 might as well look here and here. Unfortunately, 9 is the only repeat. So unfortunately, we didn't actually find any crossings today. We found some pseudo ones, but they aren't as helpful because they don't cause pointing. All right, so we have finished those 2 passes. That was a pass on, just to recap, our first pass, because it's been a while, our first pass is duplicates in bands and stacks, along with looking at really, really low-hanging fruit that we discover as we go, like a box column being full, like a box almost being full, row column almost being full, etc. The next thing we do is we go box by box looking for crossings. Usually you find some. In this puzzle we did not, which is actually kind of interesting. And then the third pass then is what I call geometry. Geometry is a little bit of a strange word for it, but geometry makes you think about visual shapes, right? You're looking at shapes. We're paying a little bit less attention to the givens individually, and we're paying more attention to the shape of the givens within a box. So like this 1, 4, for example, had we not already found it, one thing I would look for with this 1, 4 is the fact that there is a column and there is a row that they aren't in. It's kind of like a cluster of givens that as a whole avoid a row and column. We already kind of basically looked at it. But instead of looking at how those row columns affect the box itself, which is what we were looking for with crossings, we want to look at how the 1 and the 4 affect those rows and columns. I know it's a subtle difference, but we're going to be thinking about 1s and 4s and how 1 and 4 aren't in these 3 cells or these 3 cells. There are only 9 cells in a row or column, and these 1, 4s are taking them out of 3 of the 9. So there's only 6 cells left for 1 and 4 in all of these rows and columns. So think about this column. This column's almost full, right? And this 1 is not in these, and these are all not 1. So had we not already found these corner mark ones, we could have found them this way, where in this column, the 1 is limited to these 2. There's already a 4 in this column, and then these rows have lots of space for 1s and 4s. You can look down here for 1s and 4s to see if there's happens to be a lot going on, but because there's so few givens here, I generally wouldn't even bother looking. I'd give it a glance. All right, this 6, 7 are avoiding this row and this column. So we want to think about, okay, where do 6 and 7 go? See if there's any obvious restrictions. This row is not a good candidate because it's so empty. This column here, 6 and 7. Something I'm noticing is 7 is down to 2 cells only. Could be interesting to just remember that, because if one of them gets filled with non-7, it means the other one, we can place the 7. But I don't have a good way of marking that, and I don't like crowding the board with that. So that's just something to remember, or just find again later. This 2, 6, 5, 9. This 2, 6, 5 is a nice shape because it all avoids this column. And we have now found something interesting. 2, 6, and 5. I'll make those in green. Remember, these 3 cells can't repeat the 2, 6, or 5. So there are only 6 cells left now in this column that can be 2, 6, 5. But look, we have 3 givens on this column, and they are not 2, 6, 5. We still need 2, 6, and 5 in this column. I don't know, I'm saying it backwards. 2, 5, and I'm saying in the order of this, but 2, 5, and 6 is the numerical order. So I'll go back to that. So we need 2, 5, and 6 in this column. This is exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. They aren't in the same box, and they aren't these 3 digits that we've already placed. So there are only 3 cells, so I'll put in purple, that can accommodate our 2, 5, and 6. And the column needs a 2, 5, and 6. It needs all 3 of them. It needs 3 cells for them. These are the 3 cells for them. 2, 5, and 6 are going to end up in some order in these 3 cells. We have found a hidden triple. Notice it's very similar to the hidden pairs we found. It's called a hidden triple because it involves 3 digits and 3 cells. As long as the ends match, n digits and n cells, you have a hidden n. Pair, triple, quadruple, quintuple. The logic doesn't change. It's just the n is a bigger number. And so a hidden triple here What does a hidden do? Remember what a hidden does? It removes the other possible candidates from those cells. And so we can use center marks to denote that this is only from 2, 5, 6. But the most important thing here to notice is that 4, you may notice 4 is not 2, 5, or 6. I'm going to get rid of my colors at this point. 4 is not 2, 5, 6. This cell cannot be 4. For the reasons, same exact reasons that when we were talking about this 4, 6 pair over here, how this couldn't be a 2 or 3 or whatever I was saying it couldn't be. And for the same reason this can't be a 4. If I try to make this a 4, I can no longer fit 2, 5, and 6 in this column. I can fit 2 of them, but not all 3. And that has broken the puzzle. This 4 has broken the puzzle by doing that. It's not obvious, but we already learned that we have this hidden triple here, which means this cannot be a 4. So if we remove this 4 corner mark, because it can't actually be 4, now notice there's only one place for 4 in this box. We can place it here. Now there's only one place for 8 in the box. We can place it here. You're going to find this a surprising number of times, maybe one out of 3 puzzles. In the 1 out of 3 hards, maybe 1 out of, 5 or 6 mediums, you'll find something like this. But once you find it, you'll notice it does a lot, right? We're going to follow up on this 4 and this 8. The 8 horizontally actually gives us another 8. Oops, sorry. No, this box already has an 8 in it. Never mind. It would have had there not already been an 8 in the box. Anyway, sorry. That's my mistake. I was a little gung-ho with that follow-up. We can follow up vertically, though. We have these 8s looking in now. Remember, we're following up on repeats. We're also going to follow up on crossings from this 4, 8, right? But we're going to take it one step at a time. The easiest stuff first. This 4 looking into this box doesn't really... it has a buddy right here, right? So 4 is in one of these two. But even better than that, I know this is going to be a pair, right? Because we found this hidden triple, which tells us about 3 of the digits, right? We know these 3 digits end up here. So we can kind of ignore 2, 5, and 6 when thinking about this column now. And there's only 2 digits remaining. I know that because I've now highlighted 7 cells that we know what their digits are. So there's 2 digits remaining. And it's going to be the 4 and the 3 and the 4 is what it's going to be. So we can just put 3, 4 center marked here. Now, something you may have noticed when I placed these 8s as well is we found there's a corollary, right? This was a naked 3, 4 pair. If we were actually to pencil these, they would actually only be 3, 4. I'll leave that as an exercise to you to see that they see every single digit except 3, 4. And I'm guaranteed that because I found a hidden 2, 5, 6. Because there was a hidden triple, that means there was a naked pair because there were 5 open cells. And the naked plus the hidden always add to the number of open cells. So 3 plus 2 is 5. If you find a hidden, that means you could have also found a naked. If you find a naked, that means you could have found a hidden. So I found this naked 3, 4 in the box. That means I could have found a hidden 1, 7, 8 in this box. Look, it's right here. I have 3 overlapping corner marks, the 1s, the 7s, and the 8s in the same 3 cells. It doesn't matter that 8 can't be here, 7 can't be here, 1 can't be here. That doesn't matter. What matters is that I can highlight these 3 cells and completely encompass everywhere 1s, 7s, and 8s can go in the box. If that sounds like a hidden triple, it's because it is. There are 3 digits, 1, 7, and 8, that I need to place in this box, and there is a set of 3 cells that I can highlight that completely encompass everywhere 1, 7, and 8 can go. So what do? We can convert those corner marks to center marks. This is 1, 7, 1, 8, 7, 8. And that would be true also just by applying our hidden 3, 4 here. Sorry, our naked 3, 4. The naked 3, 4 removes 3 and 4 from these cells. But so the hidden triple did the same thing. It removed 3 and 4 from these cells. Not this one. This one already couldn't be 3, 4. And this one already couldn't be 4. But it removed 3 from these 2. And that can be helpful. So if 3 was removed from these 2, what does that mean for the column? Well, 3 is now down in one of these 2, right? And we can also see that from the 3, 4 pair, removing 3 from these and this 3 looking down. You can think of it that way as having a buddy. So we can corner mark 3s down here. The other thing I wanted to follow up on was we placed a couple digits. We want to look for crossings. So we already looked for crossings in the box. We want to relook for them. So for example, we got this 1, 8, 9. We don't care about the 8. We actually also have the 3 here, but we already have the 3's corner marked, so we know where those go. We know where the 9 is. So the 1 would be the only candidate. Unfortunately, there's no 1 over here, so not helpful. This 8, 9 also is something we placed this 8, so this 8, 9 might be helpful. But actually, I'm seeing something a little bit more useful to do here, which is just think about the 3 digits that are remaining in this column. Remember, once we Once we've basically filled up a row, column, or box to have like 3 or fewer left, always good just to center mark it. But before I even center mark it, if we think about it, we need 1, 2, and 7 in this column. So this cell is already down to 1, 2, 7 because of the column. And if I look at the row, I see a 2 and a 7 already. So this cell can't be anything but 1, 2, 7, but also can't be 2, 7. So the only thing left is a 1. We have a naked single 1 here. It sees every other digit. So that's a 1. And then that's going to resolve the rest of the column because now this thought it could be a 1, but it can't. It's down to just 7. That's a naked single 7. And you can see from the red marks here, this is now a naked single 2. That finishes this whole box. And this box almost finishes. We're gonna do some quick follow-ups now because there's a lot. So this 8's no longer possible, placing this 8 because of our corner marks. This 8's no longer possible, placing this 8 because of our corner marks. 8s are now done. We have all of our 8s, so we don't have to follow up on them as closely. This 5 looks down, removing 5 from these two. 2, 6 pair leaves a 3, 5 pair behind. All I thought about was, well, 5 was removed, so where's 5 in the box? Well, it joins the 3 over here. But there's a lot of ways to see that. You could also just see it from the column. You can see it from the box, what's missing besides the 2, 6, right? Okay, so that was a lot of good follow-ups. We never need to follow up horizontally here, because remember I said it was basically done on the horizontals. Now this vertical is basically done. We never have to follow up vertically here again. We do need the horizontals to eventually resolve it, but it's not going to happen vertically. Okay. Because it's all vertical pairs. That's how I know that. It's all vertical pairs. This is all horizontal pairs. You can't resolve it horizontally. Okay. So we just got this 4, 8. Just making sure we got this 1. Make sure we follow up on the 1 horizontally as well. Okay. So actually I'm seeing this one looks in and this one looks down. So really, I just sort of scanned to see if there were other ones up here that might be helping these boxes. I already saw we had one limited to these two, but in this box, I saw we hadn't corner marked it yet. And I now see that these ones, it basically is a crossing on this 8, 9. I don't know if you want to think about it that way, though. There's just so many givens in this box that these ones happen to get limited to these two. But look, we've now triggered a hidden pair. Hopefully by now you're seeing it. This is a hidden 1, 7 pair. That removes anything that other than 1, 7 from these cells, which means we can convert the corner marks to center marks. The best thing to think about here is we have 3 digits left in this box to place that can't go in here anymore. So not 1, 2, we do need a 3, and I'm just going to center mark it as we go. We need a 3, 5, and 7. Not 7, sorry. Those 7's over there. I missed something in my scan. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 6. 3, 5, and 6. Sorry about that. Okay, and we want to think about what does the 3, 5, 6 mean to us. And I'm not seeing any like obvious consequence of that. So I think we move on. I do see this 3, 5 pair here. So I'm curious about whether we have another 3, 5, 6 or 3, 5 over here. We know this can't be 1, but okay, so it can be 7 though. And it can be 6. So I guess the 6 is okay, but 7 is not okay. All right, anyway. Is there anything else to follow up with this 1, 7 pair? Things I'm noticing, it did limit 7 to 2 columns in this box, and we know 7 is also limited to 2 columns in this box. So we take a quick glance at where 7 goes in this column, and it's already placed. So not helpful, right? But worth taking a look. Okay, so we were going box by box and looking for geometry, and I don't remember which box we found that geometry for, but it looks to me like maybe I should be looking at this one. 8s are done, so unfortunately 8s aren't going to be helpful. So really this box would be the next thing to look at, just the 4. 4s are almost done, so it could be worth just double clicking them and seeing what box is missing a 4. Okay, yeah, there's only one box missing a 4 that we haven't like found. We have these 4s and these 4s. This 4 looks up, this 4 looks in. Placing this 8 actually did give us a crossing on 4s. So there is follow-ups you can do on those, and maybe we should take a quick look at those again. But it does mean 4s in one of these two, and that's actually really important. So we actually found a real crossing here. So that was a crossing on this 7, 8. We didn't see it before because we didn't have this 8 placed. But this 4 looks in, and this 4 looks in. So there's only 2 places left in this box for 4, and I think this is the first time we've had pointing in this puzzle. So let me explain it. You'll notice it's very similar in logic to something like a pair. So in this box, we are going to need a 4. There are only 2 cells left in this box that can be 4, this cell or this cell. So one of those will end up a 4. We don't know which one, But there's a commonality between those two cells, which is that they share a column. They are both in column 6. You might call it a columnality. So with the 4 in one of these two cells, the 4 will end up here or here. How could this be a 4? How could any of the rest of the column be a 4? Well, it can't be. We'd have 2 4s in the column, or we'd have no 4s in this box. Either way, that's broken. So these 4s point at the rest of the column and say you cannot be a 4. That's why it's called pointing. 4 will be here or here. No matter where this 4 is, notice how this 4 turns red. So it doesn't matter which one it ends up in. This 4 will be red, so that cannot be 4. It is a 6, and that's a 4. Very nice. Do we have a follow-up on our 6? We know that 6 is in one of these two cells. We could mark that. Okay, so we marked that 6 was only in 2 cells, which means there's a row, and they share a column, which means there's a row that they aren't in, this row. We notice in this box, it's the same exact story. The 6 is limited to these 2 cells and this 2 6 pair, which means it's not in this row. It's the same row. So there are now 6 cells that cannot be 6 that we've identified in this row. And the remaining 3 cells, in fact, there's only 2 cells left that can be 6. In fact, there's only 1 cell left that can be 6. But in general, we think about these 3 cells as now 6 has to be in one of these 3 cells. But it's not here, and this 6 says not here. So we can actually place the 6 for this row. For this row, there is only 1 cell that can be 6, and it's this cell here. And that removed a 9 corner mark, so we can place the 9 as well. This 6 removes this 6 corner mark. We can place this 6. The 9 has a buddy, rescan, everything that you've already scanned. When you place a digit, these 9s now have a buddy, places a 9 in this box. Rescan what you've already scanned. We have these 9s looking in. We can corner mark the 9s. Actually, this 9 I didn't notice, so we can place the 9 in the box. That gives us this 5 and 9. We just got the 5 and the 9. 9s are done now. We have all of our 9s, but the 5 might be helpful, but it is not. Oh no, it is actually. The 5 is now a crossing on this 7, 8, right? But I just saw that there was a buddy 5 over here that looked effective. Just scanning our 5s in a more hybrid way here. And we see that the 5 joins the 4. What does that mean? Well, it means we have a hidden 4-5 pair. This 4-5 pair removes 4-5 from the rest of the column, making this only a 3. I'm speeding up toward the end of the puzzle here. Otherwise, we're going to be here forever. So we can now clean up based on that 3. And I think at this point, we are almost done with the puzzle. So I'm going to speed up a little bit. I apologize if this makes it a little bit harder to follow along, but we are almost done with this puzzle. When I'm scanning toward the end of the puzzle, rather than doing all of the follow-ups and everything like that, when I've identified that we're basically done with the puzzle, and that comes down to instinct, and sometimes I'm wrong even. And if I find that I'm wrong, I take a step back and I rescan. But I'm looking for rows, columns, boxes that are down to the fewest number of cells. This is down to 1 open cell, because this 5-6 pair, we basically know where the 5-6 are, right? So this is down to 1 cell. There's 1 digit unaccounted for in this column, and it has to go here. It's the 3. This column is down to 1, 2, 7, but it sees 2, 7, so it has to be 1. It finishes the whole column. That finishes this box. That finishes this 1, 7 pair. That finishes the 1 in this box. This box is down to 1 digit because we know where the 4, 5 are. What's the missing digit? The missing digit is the 2. So we place the 2 in this cell. This row has a missing digit. That's the 7. So this is basically what I'm doing here, right? I'm just thinking about this box. We need 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 5. So I'm seeing the 2's down here and the 5's here because we have this 2 and this 5. And then what else did I say? The 3. 3 can go in any of them. So I'm just going to pencil those. This column is down to 2, 3. This can't be 3. So that's 2, that's 3, that's 5, that's 2. We get the 4 and the 5 and the 3 and the 4 finished. This 7 and 2 finish. This 6 and 2 are finished. I'm just following my red marks at this point. If you don't use the red marks, you can still follow up on digits you place and see the same thing. This cell is a 7. 2 digits left in this box, 3 and 5. That's the 5, that's the 3, and we're done. You can see that you can finish very quickly. And that I'd identified that the puzzle was basically done. There wasn't anything else to find in it. And that's down to instinct and number of open cells remaining. we knew almost everything about the puzzle at that point. So better to just finish it. If you're noticing rows, columns, boxes with only 1 cell remaining, you always want to fill it anyway. So there we go. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. I know these are long videos. Let me know if there's something I can do to speed them up or if they're actually a good pace for you. I am making this for you. And as you can see, it is a bit of a time investment to record these because normally I would spend about 10 to 15 minutes maybe up to 20 on a Sudoku solve, and these have been consistently taking 30 to 45 minutes. So do let me know any feedback you have. What has been helpful? What may be a bit too repetitive, or do you like that it's repetitive? I'd like any of your feedback, especially if you watch the whole thing through. And of course, along with your feedback, if you enjoyed this, why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.